I want to get this out of my system. I feel like the A's have been through more than their share of gut punches this season. Now, any good team is going to have adversity. I mean, bad teams have a lot of adversity too, but good teams go through stuff as well. Losing games they shouldn't, losing players to injury or other situations. But it does feel like, and specifically it feels like since mid to late June, the A's have gone through more of their share of just really unfortunate situations and sequences. And like I said, losing games is one thing, but how you lose them is another. And then losing players for the course of weeks or the rest of the year, that's also a totally different situation. So let's go all the way back to mid-June. The A's were on a roll. I think they had won something like 7 of 9 games. They go into New York and they take the first game. No surprise. They're playing well and the Yankees weren't. Remember Aaron Boone? There was talk about his dismissal and big changing of the guard in the Bronx. Quite the opposite now. But the A's in the next day, on Saturday, they give up a late homer, lose that game. And then on Sunday, they're trying to win the game, I think in extra innings. Was that extra innings when Aroldis Chapman came in to close it out for the Yankees? A's load the bases, nobody out. He cannot find the strike zone to save himself. And unfortunately, I mean, how many times do you see this? Sean Murphy hits into a triple play. I mean, lines one right at Urshela, 5-4 triple play. That's how the game ends. That's how that series ends, 2-1, favoring the bad guys. And then right after that, on the heels of that, you're on a road trip. And by the way, what am I doing here? 10 situations of how we got here. How the A's basically went from a team that was atop the AL West, like 19 games over 500. Then they were, once a wild card team, and that was fine. You wanted them to be in the division, then they were a wild card team. And now, for a while, actually, they were outside of a playoff spot looking in, but they were the only team in wild card contention. And now they're surrounded by the Mariners and the Blue Jays, teams that they could have shut the door on even in the last week and a half alone. So I go back to mid-June. That Yankees series for me is what kind of started off all of this. And like I said, losing games is one thing, but the way they lost was really the statement there. Then they lose 2 of 4. They split the series against the Rangers in Arlington, but come on, that's one that, they were already 20 below 500. That's unfortunate. How about losing 3 of 4 to Seattle the weekend in late July, 22nd through the 25th? But not just that. Now, here's something else, kind of out of your control. They lost 3 in a row by single runs to the Mariners. I mean, just take those 3 games back alone or alter those, even alter one a bit, and you see how this would look a lot different right now. I mean, look at Seattle. Look at their run differential right here. A negative 55 compared to the A's positive 56, and yet here these two teams are both, 3 and 3+ games back of the second wildcard spot. This is what makes it uncomfortable right now for the A's. It's the fact that there's competition showing up. It's the fact that time is now running out, 25 games to try and, correct this, alter this, get it back in a favorable position. But yeah, things got a lot more complicated. Let me go into more gut punches. Losing Trevor Rosenthal for most of the season coming out of spring training. That was a big deal, right? It was the first week of April. The A's were losing, and now he's going to be shelved. He needs surgery. So he gets it. Makes his comeback. And then you find out in, I want to say July, turns out he has a separate injury. He's not going to pitch at all this season. The A's are down their closer, the one they planned for all year. I'll skip a little bit here. How about other players they've lost? Chris Bassett, the freak comebacker in Chicago, the last time these two teams were playing. You never want that from a human perspective, but you certainly don't expect that from the baseball strategy perspective. Losing your ace, losing your Cy Young conversation pitcher, one of your leaders, the Laureano 80-game suspension. That hurts the A's in this regular season, in this postseason, if they can qualify, and in the start of next regular season. And then Stephen Piscotty, who has had the wrist injury, who is now out for the season because of the surgery. But to me, losing him for the rest of the year isn't as much of a blow as him not being able to be right all of this year. So I literally just named 2 regular outfielders, your starter and your closer, all taken away from this team. Now, again, other clubs are dealing with adversity too. This is part of, the fatigue of 162 games. Stuff happens. But let me go into more gut punches that the A's have survived this year. How about that Giants series, August 20th through the 22nd? How about the 2 games they lost because they had late leads, but giant pinch hitters in the 7th, and I want to say 7th and 8th innings respectively, hit homers against the A's bullpen that put them up for good and took 2 out of 3 in that series. When do you ever see that? Back-to-back days, the opponent goes yard in the 7th or 8th innings to take away leads, and then that's it? You don't see it often. By the way, you don't see this camera often enough either. I forgot to put this one up here on the live stream, but it's here. I just wanted to say hi. And then most recently, you play the Mariners for 2 games, August 23rd and 24th. Couldn't close those ones out. I mean, and again, here Seattle is, and you get swept by Toronto, and now all of a sudden Toronto leapfrogs you, and here they are. And my goodness, look at that run differential. I'm not taking anything away from the Blue Jays. To be perfectly honest, I'm not surprised that these guys are here. I am a little bit surprised that Seattle has persisted. And also this, Seattle at the trade deadline, they sent away Kendall Graveman, their closer. What's the statement made by that team at that point? Like, hey, good luck, guys. We're going to take away this huge piece, get something for the future, but you don't have the guy who's been closing games successfully for you this year because, we traded him to Houston, another divisional team. They traded him away. So my point in saying all of this, it's not poor A's. It's also not to say that their season is done. This video is not their obituary by any means. But this video is to say that they have gone through a lot of adversity, more so than any other season I've covered probably. And that includes 2014 when it was just a slide. There was the Lester for Cespedes trade, and there was just kind of a slide. And there were a few other things that happened, but I don't recall that team going through as many hurdles as we've seen this group. Seems like a constant. Every week there's something, whether it's how they play, how the results come in, what news happens, and they've still got a chance. So all of these things, in my opinion, I'm presenting them because we're trying to figure out how we went from, the A's leading the division to this, but also how much sweeter it would be if the A's in their final 25 games can make this time count, can make this push, and can get into a postseason and do some damage like we know they're capable of. Certainly Bob Melvin the other day, his comments were not out of line at all in saying that he's got a ton of confidence because he knows this group, he knows what they're capable of, and they have not shown that specifically yet.